Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful, may the mercy of Allah and His messengers, blessings be upon our messenger Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and on his followers up to the last day. Praise be to Allah who has created Muslims and who has guided us to the right path and has saved us from being astray. He has favored us by revealing His word on us. His word, which is the Qur'an, is revealed on us. What a great privilege! But I have a question. Why does the Qur'an have no impact on us? Why do we read the Qur'an and nothing changes, as if we read the story? No, when you read the story, you react to it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the verse 21 from Surah Al-Hashr, لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله. If you had sent down this Qur'an upon a mountain, you would have seen it humbled and coming apart from fear of Allah. And these examples we present to the people that perhaps they will give a thought. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that a mountain would be apart from the impact of the Qur'an. We are Muslims, and every Muslim has some of the Qur'an in his chest. Who among us collapses when we recite the Qur'an? Many of the Salaf did. But what about us? Okay, let's not talk about collapsing. Let's call or recall the verse number 12 from Surah Al-Anfal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا. The believers are only those who, when Allah is mentioned, their hearts become fearful. And when His verses are recited to them, it increases them in faith. And upon their Lord, they rely. Are we afraid when we recite the Qur'an? How much fear do we feel when we recite the Qur'an? It depends according to the faith, according to the degree of faith of everyone. But many people read the Qur'an as they are reading a newspaper or a story. The Qur'an has no impact on us because we use it in the wrong way. Most people misuse the Qur'an when they are eager to learn the Qur'an only to look for the blessings of Allah. Their aim of reciting the Qur'an is to look for the barakah. They need the barakah only when they recite the Qur'an, or they read the Qur'an in order to fill their chest with light and to be surrounded by angels and to fill the house with angels. Or sometimes they recite the Qur'an to show off, to tell people how much Qur'an they know. This is not the objective of revealing the Qur'an. This is like a man who suffers from an earache. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor gives him some medicine. Some days later, the patient telephones the doctor and he says, the pain is increasing. I always suffer from the pain. And the doctor says, well, continue taking the medicine. And he says, no, there is no room for the medicine. What happens to the man? He puts the medicine in the ear, he doesn't swallow it, he puts it in the ear in the wrong way. This is what happens to us. We use the Qur'an in the wrong way. An example of people who recite the Qur'an, but they don't benefit of it. A man who learns the Qur'an, the whole Qur'an by heart, he was walking along the road, and he comes across a man who was stuck in the mud. And the man asked the sheikh to pull him out of the mud. But the sheikh said, well, if I put him out of the mud, I may get dirty by the mud. So he tells himself, I'm going to recite Qur'an to get some clean hasanat rather than pulling the man and getting dirty. So he continues his way. He didn't help the man in the mud. He continues his way, reciting the Qur'an in the hope of gaining hasanat, clean hasanat. Another example of people who don't benefit from the Qur'an, the verse number 10 of Dariyat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاصُونَ. قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاصُونَ. Destroyed are the falsifiers. And he himself is a falsifier. So the Qur'an is cursing him, and he is not aware of that. A lot of people, Arab people, they speak Arabic, and they are, it's their language, but they recite Qur'an and they don't understand it. Although they are Arabs, they don't know what they are reading, and they don't make an effort to look for the meaning of what they are reading in the books of tafsir. So if you ask people in the street what book is most read in the world and it is not understood, what is the book that everybody reads and few people understand it, they would say it is the Qur'an. So in this meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وقال الرسول يا ربي إن قومي اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. Which means, and the messenger said, O my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Qur'an as a thing abandoned. There are many ways of abandoning Qur'an. When you don't read it, you abandon it. When you read it and you don't understand, you abandon it. And when you don't make an effort to see the meaning, you abandon it. And we don't practice it. When you recite Qur'an and you don't practice it, you don't obey to the teaching of Qur'an, the teaching of Islam, you abandon it. So we should recite the Qur'an in order to change. We should recite the Qur'an in order to change, in order to improve our behavior. What is important in dealing with the Qur'an is not how much we recite it, or not how much we learn by heart, or not how quick we read, how many khatmas we do in 1 month. No. What is important is how much we improve, how much we change, how much change happens inside us. Our mother Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about the behavior of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she says his behavior was the Qur'an. And she says in another hadith, he was a walking Qur'an, a Qur'an which walks on the ground. Some scholars say that a lot of Muslim merchants who learned only الفاتحة, Surah Fatiha, الإخلاص, المعوذتين, and traveled on business to Indonesia and the neighboring countries, and their faces were shining. Because they were loyal and they were correct. They were faithful, and their behavior was a practice of the teaching of the Qur'an. The consequence, a lot of people who dealt with them and who were acquainted with them were amazed by their behavior, and they entered Islam, the religion of Allah, in great numbers. They entered Islam thanks to the behavior of these good people, these people who behaved according to the Islamic teaching, according to the Quranic teaching. As I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us read the Quran as we should, and practice according to the teaching of the Quran. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين. الحمد لله.